All right, Steph. So in episode 2, you said something that made it a little bit difficult for me to sleep at night.
Oh, boy.
You made a pretty controversial statement that you said wasn't that controversial. Something like Dominic Hasek is better than Patrick Roy, and it's not close.
Yeah, he's the best goalie of all time, and it's not close.
Okay, so I thought we would start off this episode elaborating on that because I need an answer. So the floor is yours.
Okay, so there's a couple of main arguments to support Hasek. I'll go through them one by one. But as I go through them, keep this in mind. Because Czech players weren't really playing in the NHL, I think due to political things back in the day, he didn't even become a full-time starter till he was 29.
Oh, wow.
So everything that I'm going to tell you now, he did in his mid to late 30s.
Okay.
Which makes it even more impressive.
And do you know how long he played? Like till what age?
He played, I think he won a cup in his 40s, I'm going to be honest. His last one with Detroit, I think he was in his 40s.
Wow. Okay. I'm excited to hear this argument.
Okay. So the first argument in favor of him is the most basic one. It's he has better stats, flat out. So he has actually the highest career save percentage of all time.
Wow.
At a 922. Okay. Even if people like to use goals against average, I don't think it's the best stat for goalies, but he had a better goals against average than Brodeur and Patrick Roy.
Okay.
And even though that stat's not great, he had better than both of them. Now this is where it starts to get even more conclusive, in my opinion. He has the second most Vezina trophies of all time, 6.
Wow.
And the leader is Jacques Plante, who played when there were 6 teams. So there were 6 goalies to choose from. Okay, he won 7 of them. Great. He won all 6 of these in an 8-year span. And when he won these 6, neither Brodeur or Roy, who were good at the time, won. I think it was like, I don't remember who won it, but it was like, I think Jose Theodore and, I don't know, Olaf Kolzig or something like that, right? So these 2 other goalies who were in that conversation didn't win Vezinas while Hasek was in his prime. He dominated that 8-year span. And he also won 2 Hart trophies in back-to-back years, and he's the only goalie to ever do that.
Wow.
Only goalie to win it twice, never mind back-to-back years.
And so Roy never won a Hart trophy.
I don't know if Patrick Roy won one or not, but Hasek is more.
Okay.
And the kicker here is he played on objectively worse teams than both Patrick Roy and Brodeur. So I'm just going to say a few names. You tell me if you recognize these names, okay?
Okay.
So these are the guys who are on Patrick Roy's team. Adam Foote.
Okay.
Rob Blake.
Yes.
Ray Bourque for a season.
I think that name rings a bell.
Yeah. Joe Sakic.
Yeah.
Peter Forsberg.
Big
you know
names.
these guys, right? Brodeur's teammates. Scott Niedermayer. Scott Stevens. Patrick Elias.
Yep.
And Scott Gomez when he was good.
When he was good. Okay.
Yeah. And then I'm going to name you a few of Hasek's main teammates.
Okay, let's see how I can do.
Miroslav Shatan.
No clue.
Mike Pekka.
That guy played hockey?
Yeah. Teppo Numanen.
Does it not ring a bell?
And Alexei Zhitnik.
Yeah, so either I'm being called out here for my lack of hockey knowledge or...
I didn't know. I knew like a couple of them. I knew Shatan and Pekka, but Numanen and Zhitnik, I was not familiar with them.
Yeah, so this is the one area that I can kind of provide a little bit of insight. So the narrative that Patrick Roy played on better teams is just objectively true. There wasn't a war stat back then, but one thing that I found is that when Patrick Roy didn't play, the chances of the team losing fell about 7%, which is pretty significant. But when Hasek didn't play, their team, the odds dropped about 15 to 20%. So it's not close.
Yeah, almost double. And then, so with those players, Hasek dragged Buffalo to the conference finals in 98 and then the cup final in 99 where they lost to that bogus foot in the crease goal.
Yep.
I mean, that's a stupid rule, but it was against the rules at the time. So who knows if he wins that cup, probably changes the narrative a lot. And then on the international level, he led the Czech to a gold medal in Nagano in 1998. He was the MVP of the tournament. I'm going to tell you his stats in that tournament. When I looked these up, I was shocked.
Okay, let's hear him.
So his goals against average was .97.
Oh, wow.
And his save percentage was .963.
Wow, and I'm sure he was like peppered with shots during that tournament too.
Oh, for sure he was.
Wow.
I think I don't remember who was on the team. I don't remember who was on those teams at the time. I'm pretty sure Lemieux would have been on Team Canada, and he beat them in a shootout in the semis. I think it was just an insane way to like cap off a crazy career. And the only thing that hurts him, if you even want to go there, is that he has less cups than the other two, than Patrick Roy and Brodeur, but he still has 2. And I think it's a team stat. That's not really a goalie stat, but that's really the only like place you can knock him if you really wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, the argument for who has more cups to equal who's better really is only valid when the player doesn't have any cups. And I mean, if he's got 2, that legacy is pretty cemented. So the only thing that I'll say is I agree with you. Hasek was better after that beautiful argument that you just gave to me.
Thank you.
But I think Patrick Roy might have been a little bit more influential in the game, and this one's a little bit up for debate. But Patrick Roy certainly didn't invent the butterfly. That was invented by Glenn Hall in the 1950s. But a lot of the stuff that I read was that Patrick Roy made it very popular and made it the most widely used technique today. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, I think from what I know, he's been very influential. He's also Canadian, which matters. Canadian fans are, the most. Canada has the most fans, I think, on average. So the fact that he was Canadian definitely helped in terms of his influence on the game. But I think like Hasek, just the way he played was so out there,
very unorthodox,
and like that's sort of something you remember him by too. But in terms of influence, I think you're right. Just on like the way the position's played now, I think Patrick Roy is probably more influential, but again, not necessarily better.
Agreed.
Okay. Now that I've gotten my rant out, I want to give you a chance to have a rant because I know this trade hits home for you. We got some big news earlier this week when Tyler Toffoli got traded to the Calgary Flames for a first, Emil Heineman, who's a former second rounder, a 5th, and Tyler Pitlick. So now I'm going to let you take over and give me your thoughts on the trade.
Okay, so when I first saw this trade, my eyes lit up because it's very rare that you see a trade that works very well for both sides. I thought so normally there's a clear winner and a clear loser from the trade. And in my opinion here, Calgary and Montreal both hit it out of the park. I think Calgary won it a little bit more, and I'll explain why. So first off, Calgary got the best player in the deal. That's not even a question. They got a legit goal scorer to finally make a push. And here's the big thing. He's on term. He's got 3 more years at a pretty cheap AAV. It's like 4.3. People forget because of Montreal's terrible track record this season that season that when he went off the year before, he was on pace for something stupid like 44 goals.
He had a great year last year.
Yeah, and like 70 points. And even this year with Montreal, I know he's battled injury, but he's put up 26 points in 37 games on a terrible team.
Well, that's actually better than I thought.
Yeah, me too. I mean, he slots perfectly on the second line with Breadman and Backlund. Breadman equals Andrew Mangiapane. Yeah, he started on the third line, but I think Sutter said it's because he played like 5 games in 6 days. He wanted to give him a bit of a rest.
Okay.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
I would really expect them to slot on the first power play on the second line. So here's where it gets even more interesting for Calgary. They gave up a protected first-round pick this year, and it would take a catastrophic failure for that pick to be in the top 10. That pick is a glorified second-round pick. It's going to be a very late first-round pick.
Ideally.
Right? They didn't have to give up a top prospect. And when I looked up the top-rated prospects for Calgary, I think in first is Connor Zary, next is Matthew Coronado, third is Jacob Pelletier, and fourth is Dustin Wolf. Where do you think Hyman ranks in there?
I didn't even know who he was before, so I'd say like, I don't know, if not 10th, lower.
It's like 14th.
Yeah.
Heineman's been traded twice in his career. I mean, the fact that Calgary was able to get a fantastic goal scorer without changing their lineup and without giving up a very bona fide prospect blows my mind. This makes them a very serious playoff threat. And I mean, when we talk about Tyler Toffoli, he's been very, very underrated his whole career. He's an offensive god. Like when we bring up these advanced stats, he's in the 87th percentile for wins above replacement, 89th percentile in expected offensive production, 87th percentile in expected finishing, and in expected goals per 60 minutes of play, he's in the 75th percentile.
Wow. Right?
The dude can legitimately score, and the only argument against him is he might not be great defensively, but in expected defensive production, he ranks 56th percentile. So he's an average defenseman.
It's fine. It's good enough when you score like that.
Exactly. So people don't realize that Calgary was able to get a bona fide first-line goal scorer to make a push without giving up a huge part of their lineup or a huge part of their future.
Yeah, that's a big component actually that you bring up, that they didn't have to give anybody up off their roster. Like, they're going for it.
Literally. And the fact that this pick isn't going to be a top 10 pick makes a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what are your thoughts on the Calgary side of the trade?
I think it's a good fit because they needed a little bit of secondary scoring.
Mm-hmm.
They were lacking there. Their first line is fantastic, but now they have two good lines that they can lean on.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, he slots in their first power play unit. Probably takes Sean Monahan's spot, who's been underwhelming since like his first few years. He went really performed well.
Mm-hmm.
And also, like, an underrated aspect of this trade is that if Johnny Gaudreau walks, at least you have Toffoli to lean on. He can slot it to that first line,
Very
probably do reasonably well. And he's on term, like you said. I mean, hopefully they keep Gaudreau, so they can keep the band together. But, hey.
Yeah, the 3 years of term is huge. So maybe now let's talk a little bit Montreal side. I'll let you start off on this. How do you think Montreal fared in this trade?
I think they did okay.
Okay.
I think getting a first is good. I mean, I didn't realize Heineman was that lowly rated, I guess. But, hey, you never know if Montreal gives him a chance to develop. Who knows? It's a throw-in. You never know. I think the big thing is the first rounder, because Montreal's having a little bit of a quick rebuild. I think they're going to try and do kind of what Boston did a few years ago, is try and get a few first-rounders in the same draft, hopefully draft better than Boston did, but then just turn it around quickly because they have some pieces. And I think this is just a sign that the lead up to the trade deadline, I think Montreal's going to trade guys like Sherratt potentially for another first. They're going to be recouping draft picks, and if they do a good job with their rebuild process, they can be kind of back and relevant in a couple years or less.
Yeah, so from a Toronto fan base perspective, it's great to say that Montreal's rebuilding again, but from an NHL fan perspective, it's pretty sad. I mean, Montreal hasn't been great for a long time, and as one of the biggest markets in the league, you do want to see them do well.
From that perspective.
I mean, I think they get the losing end of the deal because I think they could have gone more. I mean, they got a first round pick, but like I said, it's a glorified second. They got a fifth. I really think they could have gotten more with a prospect. Like, I know Connor Zary probably wasn't going to be someone they would give up, but even if they took Coronado, Wolf, or Pellissier, like someone ranked 4th or 5th, it's better than a 14th rated pick.
Yeah, and I don't know. This trade kind of caught me by surprise because there's still a bit of time left before the trade deadline. I wonder. I mean, I'm assuming they did their research. Maybe that was the best they could get, and they wanted to act quick in case he got hurt or something. Maybe this was the best offer on the table, and they decided to just pull the trigger. Yeah,
and also another reason why I think Montreal did a good job here, that front office, is because they had to get rid of Toffoli while he still had value. Like compared to the season 2 years ago, his numbers were stagnating, and they would have only got worse on the dumpster fire that's going on there.
Yeah.
Like you said, I really expect them to sell the farm here. Hoffman, Dvorak, Lehkonen, Sherratt are all going to go.
Yeah.
I really only see Suzuki staying. Is there anyone else you think would stay?
Like Caulfield.
Oh, true.
Yeah. But other than those two and the unmovable contracts that they might have, everyone else should be on the table. And then you can kickstart a rebuild.
Yeah. No, I agree. I'm very happy to see that this trade works for both sides. I looked at it for a really long time. I don't see how Calgary lost any aspect of this deal, and I'm pretty excited. Calgary's always had a special place in my heart. I'd like to see them finally make a push. Maybe this brings them to a contender status. I don't know. Maybe we'll talk about that a bit later. Yeah,
that sounds good. Okay, so we're going to move on. Montreal is in a terrible cap situation, even though they're really bad. But another team that's in a really tough cap situation and seems to be finding ways to make things work is Vegas.
Vegas is suspect central right now.
Yeah. Eichel finally came back. It was great to see him play. But they're doing what maybe some fans would call some shady cap shenanigans.
Very shady. What do you want to talk about first? Eichel's impact or these cap shenanigans?
Well, let's start on a positive note.
Okay.
So we can be in the Vegas fans' good graces. I'm excited to see how they do now. I'm
very excited too. I mean, even though Calgary's got the top spot in the Pacific, I think Vegas slots number 1 now with Eichel coming back.
Yeah, you think so?
Right, especially when Stone and Pacioretty come back. This team on paper is the best team in the Pacific. They have crazy center depth on their forward area, like Eichel, Stevenson, Karlsson. I mean, we already know they can win from these past pushes they've made, and now this kind of cements them as contenders.
Yeah, they're going to be going. Well, is Stone going to be out the rest of the year? Likely.
I think they said he's going to conveniently come back when the playoffs start.
I mean, it sounds about right. But when they're healthy, that top 6 is lethal.
Quite possibly the best top 6 in the league.
And they're all I hate using the cliche of guys who are going to do well in the playoffs, but they will. They're all big boys who hit. They're gritty too. Yeah, I talked about this a lot last week too. Yeah. Vegas is built to win the cup from a physical perspective. Even on their back end, Theodore, Martinez, Petrel, they're all really big dudes. Yeah, they're gonna be a fun team to watch, and we don't have to worry about them because Leafs are in the East. We got our own problems, but from a neutral perspective, those Western Conference like later round playoffs between that, like if they meet like a Calgary or a Minnesota or a Colorado, of course, those are going to be some fun series.
No, I agree with you. It's going to be fun to watch.
Now let's talk about the negative, if you want to call it negative part, which is some of these cap shenanigans. Can you try and explain to the listeners and to me what's kind of going on there?
I think Vegas is suspect central right now. I mean, it's kind of funny. They had all of these cap problems, and now all of a sudden, Mark Stone goes on the long-term injured reserve conveniently a week before Jack Eichel comes back. When throughout like a year's time, when we had no clue for a timetable for return, he was getting the surgery, wasn't getting the surgery, and all of a sudden he comes back at the perfect time. I mean, we can say luck fell in their hand. It just seems very, very unlikely to believe to me. I mean, I wonder if the front office knew that Mark Stone had this lingering back injury.
They definitely had to know.
Right, and they just told him, here are the cap issues going on. Take your deserved time off on the injured reserve. Come back healthy for the playoffs and see what happens.
Because when I was like listening to guys like Friedman or just other hockey writers talk about it, they were always like, Vegas doesn't seem too concerned. Like they must have something up their sleeve. They must have a plan in place. And lo and behold, nobody knew that Mark Stone's back was kind of messed up. And now he's going to, like you said, get his time. A fresh Mark Stone on your first line right wing coming into the playoffs is pretty solid.
Yeah, I don't doubt that Mark Stone had this back injury for a long time. But, I mean, if there's any sports players that are known to battle through injury, it's hockey players. And it just makes a lot of sense that he was probably battling this injury. And they said, take some time off. Let's get the cap going. And then you can be back in time. It's funny that, I mean, word on the street is that Alec Martinez has been ready for a very, very long time. He's been in the trade market looking to go back to his hometown in Detroit, which, I mean, isn't too coincidental. I expect if they throw Leonard on the injured reserve, conveniently Alec Martinez will come back.
Yeah, and they'll have all these guys, like they wouldn't have this good of a team in any other year.
Yep.
And they have to do well for this to all be worth it. But like similar to Tampa a few years ago, like people are getting mad at them now, or not mad, but like kind of being frustrated with all these cap circumvention tactics and stuff. Like, what do you have to say to people who are mad at Vegas?
So the first thing that I have to say, and I'll keep this quick because I know you know more about this cap issue than I do, is that as a fan in general, I would also be mad because I don't want to see another team doing well. But from a neutral perspective, literally almost every team does it. And you cannot get mad at a team for abusing a rule that has a blatant loophole in it and doing it to a good degree. So, I mean, what do you think about this rule where teams are able to put guys on long-term injured reserve, doesn't count against the cap, and then when the playoff comes, all the cap doesn't matter anymore? Yeah,
like you said, it's a rule. Like the system is kind of flawed. Exactly half of the teams in the league, 16 of them are already over the cap. Wow. They're all using this rule, some to greater degrees than others. Like Vegas would be like the most glaring example of it, but like Philly's over the cap by a lot.
16 teams, so that's half exactly of the teams. So half of these fans that are complaining about Vegas on average are hypocrites.
Their team is likely, maybe whether they realize it or not, is doing a similar thing. They're just not as good as Vegas. So it comes across when it's a really good team doing it and there's really good players involved. But I mean, every team does it, and it's almost like if you're not, this isn't cheating, but it's like if you're not cheating, you're not trying, because the rules are so strict in what you can and can't do. When you find a loophole like this, you have to use it if you want a competitive edge.
For sure. If you're not competing, you're not. If you're not cheating, you're not competing. Just like my father always used to say.
Yeah, exactly. But I do think that there's a problem with this system. Like it needs to change. And the idea that I don't like the idea that a hard salary cap increases parity, because half the teams aren't using the salary cap. They're already over.
True.
So I think that argument is a little bit flawed from that perspective. When you bring LTIR into it, I think the solution to this is just to introduce a luxury tax.
Okay.
They're the only major league, like NBA, MLB, NFL is a little different, but those other two that I mentioned, they all have luxury tax.
Okay, maybe explain what this luxury tax means for people that don't understand, including me.
So the NHL has like hard cap ceiling of $81.5 million this year. Mm-hmm. So what a luxury tax would do is that if a team wanted to spend over the cap, they'd be allowed to, but they'd be taxed on every dollar they spent over. Okay. So let's just say for simple numbers, it was 10%. So for every let's say million that you spend over the cap, you pay a tax of $100,000 to the NHL.
Okay, and then where does that money go?
And the good thing about that money is that it would be part of the equalization payments at the end. Equalization payments is like revenue sharing among teams. So like the Leafs, they donate a large chunk of revenue to the league, but the league redistributes that to the struggling markets. So one, it's just a rule that allows teams to be better when they want to be better. And two, it's good for these small market teams that don't make money, because now there's more money coming into the pot. And then if this money's enough, they can go and spend more money too.
Yeah, that's very true. But so there's another perspective that now teams that are just objectively rich are able to just spend crazy amounts over the cap and be stacked every year.
Yeah, but like I said, they're doing that now to a degree.
True.
It might be to a greater degree, but also if an owner doesn't want to spend the money, they don't have to. So it's up to the owners, and all these owners are rich. I know some of the businesses don't make as much money, but you know, in the 90s when there was no cap, you had teams like Dallas, teams like New Jersey. They were perennial contenders because they spent money. So there's the money there. I think these owners just don't want their fans to realize they have the money to spend because they don't like spending it.
Yeah, I mean, from the NHL's perspective, it also makes a lot of sense with this luxury tax theoretically being implemented. The big market teams will be good for a very long time. It'll increase ticket sales. I mean, and then if that gets redistributed towards lower end teams, I mean, everybody seems to benefit. The only thing that could possibly be heard here is that we might see a lot of the same teams continuously do well, like we see in the NBA, which is a huge knock against the NBA.
It is, but even if you look at the NHL, it's been honestly kind of the same teams that dominate. Pittsburgh's been good for a decade. Washington's been good for a decade. Boston has been good. LA and Chicago traded cups for 6 years. Like there is still a group in the league. I think like the side characters, if you want to call them, like the supporting cast changes, but the juggernauts stick around usually.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's a good idea. Here's another thing that I saw on Twitter a couple of weeks ago. I want to get your take on it. What if you, instead of implementing a luxury tax, so you keep the rule as it is now, if a player goes on long-term injured reserve, they no longer count towards the cap, and then when they come back in the playoffs, you know, all the cap goes out the roof. But just make sure that every single playoff game, the team that is fielded that game is under the cap.
I've heard of that before.
Right. And
it would be interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of benefits to this. I mean, first of all, like I'm sure the reason why the rule is implemented now is it enables players that get hurt to come back and teams not to be crazy penalized for a key player going out because they can just go get another player. Right? But now in the playoffs, that incentive to put players on the long-term injured reserve because they're not hurt is removed, because when you're way over the cap, I mean, you can't field all those players anyway. Yeah,
it would be interesting too from like a tactical perspective. Like, do you stack your forwards and like have some like fringe guys playing bottom six roles, or do you know, give stars a break so they're more fresh? It would be kind of interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
About that.
And now general managers have something to think about too, because when you go out and get a really big name, you start to wonder, is it worth it? Because in the playoffs, if he can't play when my stars come back, I mean, does it make sense? It might get GMs to be more incentivized to bring back players when they're actually healthy.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, yeah, that's a little bit of my rant. The last thing I want to talk about Vegas is this recent Leonard injury.
Yeah.
So conveniently, Robin Leonard got hurt, and I don't mean that they made him get hurt. I just mean it's just very cool. It's just very lucky.
Yeah.
This might be the one that is genuinely lucky because he got hurt. But my question to you is, assuming that Robin Leonard goes on the LTIR, do they go out and get their boy Marc-Andre Fleury?
Not Fleury. Maybe a goalie, but not Fleury. I think the way that relationship ended, I just don't know if Fleury would want to go back. I wouldn't blame him if he didn't. Like, they kind of sewered him. He found out about his trade on Twitter. I mean, come on.
That's sad.
Yeah. I don't even know. They have all these cap issues. I know Leonard and him make a similar amount of money, but they want to bring $7 million back. Like, that's why they sent him out to begin with, was the cap hit. But that was a pretty funny rumor, just because of all the history between, even with his agent tweeting out that picture of the sword. Do you remember that?
I remember that.
There's just so much baggage there now that I don't know if you can go back. But it would be fun for the chaos perspective.
But that was a picture of him getting stabbed in the back, right?
Yeah, by like the sword like De Boer's name on it.
That's gutty.
That's hilarious.
So my question is that, talking about Marc-Andre Fleury now, if he doesn't go to Vegas, I mean, Chicago would be pretty stupid not to trade him this year. He's a free agent next year. He wants to win. He's 37. He's probably not going to sign back. Where do you think Fleury goes at the deadline?
I don't know. When I was looking at teams, I had a tough time of finding a team that would not necessarily need goaltending, but because there's cap implications, like who could afford him? Who would have the assets to give up? Is their goalie situation really bad enough to have to go out and get a guy? So like the only team that I thought like maybe, but this is even I'm not too convinced by this, but I said, like, I thought, well, maybe St. Louis,
Mm-hmm.
like, they could be an option if Binnington's continues to have like as bad of a season as he has. I know Ville Husso's there, but if maybe the front office, Doug Armstrong, thinks, we have a really good team, do we really want to put our faith in a rookie goalie, even though they did that when they won? Lightning doesn't strike twice, right? So maybe from that perspective, you go out and get Fleury. I wouldn't mind seeing him in a pair of royal blue pads. I mean, hey.
Yeah.
But how about you?
Okay, there's one obvious choice, the Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah.
I'll talk about that a bit. The Edmonton Oilers have a really bad problem in the net right now. As you quoted verbatim a few episodes ago, 55-year-old, million-year-old Mike Smith and Koskinen, who's way overpaid. I mean, if Fleury comes to Edmonton, Koskinen will definitely have to be in the deal going the other way.
Yeah.
And they're going to have to give up a bunch of picks in order for them to retain that whole contract.
Maybe. It would be... I think Chicago would get a good deal out of that.
Yeah, I mean, it goes without saying that the goalie situation is Edmonton's biggest issue right now. And even if the draft picks are pretty stark, if I'm Ken Holland, I really don't care about getting fleeced here. Like, from a pride perspective, like you mentioned last week, they legitimately cannot be embarrassed anymore. And also from a positive perspective, it would free up cap space next year to go get a good goalie if they don't have to retain any salary.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I think Edmonton is the obvious choice, but there's one more that speaks to me, and it's along the same lines as you, from the perspective that this team might be a goalie away from winning a cup, not a cup, but pushing, and they don't want to take their chances on a rookie goaltender. And to me, that's Boston. I mean, when we think about Swayman in the net, he's got a .923 save percentage, a .213 goals against average. Like, he's a great rookie goalie. He's a rookie, right?
He's a rookie, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't know if Boston wants to place their trust in a rookie goalie, especially because the window there is so small now, right? Like my thought is you go get Fleury, who has, by the way, 3 cups in his career. He's played in the playoffs every single year of his career, which is crazy.
That's a crazy stat line.
Like, would you agree that, like, I mean, if you were the GM, would you think about selling the farm now and then rebuilding around Swayman and McAvoy when the time is up for Marchand and Bergeron?
Do you think you have to sell the farm to get Fleury, though?
I think you would have to at least give up a first-round pick.
And that's well, first of all, that's crazy because they got him for nothing in the summer. Literally nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But if you really don't trust Swayman, and Allmark hasn't been as good as Swayman this year, right? So maybe Swayman's the guy going in. I think, because you said their key guys are already in their mid-30s, like, you're going to suck after they're gone. So you might as well, like, really lean into that and try. I like that idea of Boston better than St. Louis.
Yeah, and I mean, even when you think about it, if Fleury comes in and Swayman doesn't play this year, he'll get tutelage under an amazing goaltender with a lot of experience, and then maybe he's your guy next year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Fleury's like a great dude too. So if there wouldn't be any bad blood there from taking over a job, I think it would only like do good for Swayman if they were to go out and grab him. Actually,
so the only thing that would be at play here is whether Boston's on that 10-team no trade list.
Oh, that's right.
I mean, kind of funny. I think we found out that Washington was on that no trade list.
And probably add Vegas to that too.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool to see that Marc-Andre Fleury, after getting pushed out of there, after winning 2 cups, getting pushed out of there by Matt Murray, is still very loyal to that franchise.
Yeah.
Like he said, he wouldn't play for Edmonton. It just goes to show that he's a really good dude.
Yeah, no, he definitely is. Speaking of another really good dude who played for Pittsburgh, guys might recognize the name Sidney Crosby.
Who's that?
He's just one of the greatest to ever play the game. Okay. But he scored his 500th goal yesterday. Well, not yesterday on the time of recording, but why don't we just talk a little bit about Sid? Yeah,
I mean, everything that I'm going to say, everybody already knows. 500 goals, 1,400 points in 1,100 games, 1.27 points per game. Like, the WAR stats on this guy are insane. I mean, every single year he's played, he's had a WAR, a wins above replacement, of between the 97th and 100th percentile of players. So what that means is that 97% of all other players in the league have less of an impact towards contributing to a win than Sidney Crosby for his team.
And even those years, like, when he got hurt and, like, past couple years when he's aging, he's battled injury, like, he's still unbelievable.
Still point per game.
That's, wow. People kind of, I feel like he's been not disrespected, but underrated since the guys like McDavid and McKinnon and Matthews have come. Like, I guess rightfully so, new blood, you get a little bit excited, but my God, he hasn't missed a beat.
No, it's very easy to say that he's no longer in the top 5 best players in the league. And I mean, there's a justified argument to be made there, but the guy still plays 25 minutes a night, puts up a point per game. He's a great leader. I mean, I don't think there's much to say that, I mean, he's probably a top 5 player ever.
Oh, he's in the conversation.
Yeah, it's close. Like every year, his expected value of offense is 100%. His finishing is usually in the 97th, 98th percentile. I mean, I think it's pretty conclusive that he is the best player of his generation, right? The only other guy I can think of is Alexander Ovechkin. And I mean, the only thing I believe that Ovi is better than him at is goal scoring.
Pure goal scoring,
right?
yeah.
I don't think that's a question. Crosby just does it at both ends of the ice. Incredible playmaker and leader. Like, what do you think?
Yeah, I think he goes on, like, if you want to talk about a Mount Rushmore of hockey, like for skills, for impact, for memories for our generation, I think he has a real strong case to make it into that conversation with the Lemieux, the Gretzkys, the Gordie Howes. Like, he's gonna be that influential when we look back. And yeah, Ovi is the greatest goal scorer of all time. But
oof,
well, I think we can save that conversation for later. But I'm just giving context. But he's maybe the greatest goal scorer of all time, and Crosby is still, I think, by everyone except Washington fans, like objectively better than him.
Yeah, I think even Washington fans know it.
Yeah.
One thing I kind of appreciated throughout their years of rivalry is that him and Ovi always had respect for each other.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I thought it was something that's really cool. I guess before we switch up, like, do you think there was any other player in that generation that held a candle to him?
I mean, there was a couple of guys in their peak that didn't do it for that long. Like, a name that we both talked about actually before we started was Erik Karlsson.
True.
Like, in his prime, when he led the Senators in 2017, I think it was, to the Eastern Conference Final, they came within a goal of making the Cup Finals, which, if you think about Ottawa now, like 5 years ago, they had a chance to win the Cup. That's incredible to think of.
Yep.
But at his peak, I think Erik Karlsson is just one of those guys. Like, he sort of... Like, do you think we have a Cale Makar if you don't have a Erik Karlsson?
Maybe not.
Like,
I mean, Erik Karlsson seemed to pave the way for that prolific offensive defenseman.
Yeah. So I think even from that perspective, like, he didn't change the position, but like, he maybe changed the way it was played in this sort of era of hockey. Because you had guys like obviously Bobby Orr and Boris Salmon do their thing back in the day, but he kind of trademarked that style of play and led the way for guys like Makar.
Yeah, I mean, so speaking about defensemen in the 2010 generation, Drew Doughty did something pretty cool a couple weeks ago. Actually, like a week ago, he hit 1,000 games. Maybe let's talk a little bit about that. Like, what's the significance of that in your mind?
Well, Drew was always like one of my favorite players to watch. I have like his jersey I used to wear a lot when I played. He was really skilled player, but he always was just like so relatable. I don't know, he had an edge. He wasn't afraid. He would eat pucks. He was missing teeth. Like, he was just your prototypical like Canadian defenseman who just did everything like well. I don't know. I just have a soft spot for Doughty, and it helped that he was really good.
So let me ask you, and I think I might already know your answer to this question, is he a Hall of Fame lock?
I think so. I mean, he has 2 cups, 1 Norris, 2 gold medals. He's about over half a point a game in his career. Well over that, like 0.67, I think, points per game in the playoffs. Makes a pretty good case.
Yeah, so 130 goals in his career, 431 assists in 1,000 games. What really blows my mind is he's got a plus minus of like 36, and I know that plus minus is a flaw stat, right? Like, so when you think about it, this guy has logged like 25 to 30 minutes a game against the league's best players because he plays on a first line, and in his prime, those divisions, like the Western Division, dominated the East. Right, you had
were stacked.
Teams like Anaheim, San Jose, Chicago. Like, the list goes on and on. And even LA's been pretty bad for a little bit of time now. And for him to still be plus minus, plus 36 in his career, like, I mean, it's pretty unbelievable. What he has 1 Norris, right?
1 Norris.
I think 1 Norris, 2 Stanley Cups, 2 Olympic golds. I really don't think it's an argument. Like, the guy's definitely going to get in.
He's got to go there.
Might even be a first ballot. That's a bit of an argument that we could talk about at a later day, but he's definitely getting into the Hall of Fame.
I think he gets in. That was a great point, though, because I wonder how high his plus minus was before they kind of tailed off. It must have been way, way higher. And I think like an argument that I've seen made against him, and it's a valid one, that, you know, after he signed that contract, he sort of had a dip in performance, but you can talk about it. He's been better, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's been better as of late. I mean, from a defensive perspective, LA is kind of bleeding a little bit. There's not that many huge names. He plays almost like 27, 28 minutes a night on the first power play. I mean, LA looks like they could sneak into the wild card spot. I think a lot of that has to do with him. It just really, like, just going back to it, it just blows my mind that he was playing against prime Getzlav, like prime Perry.
Oh my gosh.
Right? Like
Thornton,
prime Kane, Marlowe, like all these guys. And he's the one matching up against them 30 minutes a night.
Yeah.
How does the guy go plus?
Yeah, I mean, it's a mixture of being on a good team himself and just being good.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think plus minus means a lot, like, you know, in like season to season or like stretch of games to stretch of games. But if you're plus over a career, like, that's a lot of games. Like, I think it means something when it's like over that long of a time.
Yeah, I mean, when we look at it from that longevity perspective, like you said, when I think about where he ranks among D-men of his generation, like, in my mind, the only ones better than him for sure are Hedman, Duncan Keith, and Erik Karlsson. And I know that for like fans now that didn't grow up watching Erik Karlsson, there's like a lot of slander. But when you think about the things that he did back, like you mentioned, it's ridiculous. There was a time, like you said, that it was Crosby, Ovi, and Karlsson as the cemented top three from, I think, like 2014 to 2018. He missed like only 5 games, had 75 goals, 220 assists. That's nearly a point per game for 4 straight years on, I'm sorry, not a great team in Ottawa.
No.
Like, I don't know. Maybe Brett Burns is a little bit better than Doughty. It's close.
He's up there. I don't know. Yeah, better than Doughty. Like, maybe. He's maybe, if he's not 5th, he's maybe 6th on that list. He was really good too.
Yeah. This brings up a lot of nostalgia. I really loved Erik Karlsson as a player. He's my favorite defenseman of all time. And when he was playing in that semifinal against Crosby, I mean, I love Crosby, but a really big part of me wanted to see Erik Karlsson go to the finals that year.
Just so he could get get the cup possibly, or just get like more credit than he had gotten.
It's really sad that injuries have played a huge part in his career deteriorating. I mean, he's still when you take away the contract hit, he's still a very good second pairing defenseman.
He's serviceable.
Just probably not worth $11 million.
Yeah, that's I think at the time, like, maybe people saw the decline coming, but you had to pay him because he was coming off some of those crazy years. I think, yeah. I mean, if we're gonna talk about like the best players of that generation, again, I'm gonna harp on it again. We missed an incredible chance to see maybe some of them have their last run at the Olympics.
Yeah.
But the good thing, I guess, the silver lining about them not going to the Olympics was that the women's game was front and center, and Canada won. Canada won the goal yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, what's something really cool to see is that Poulin scored like twice. It's pretty nostalgic too. She's been doing it for a really, really long time. I think with those 2 goals, she's scored like 7 gold medal games in his career. And what's really cool is she is the first Canadian player ever, men or women, to score in 4 Olympic gold medal tilts.
Wow.
Right? We saw Sarah Nurse add a goal and assist too. The goalie played really well, stopped 38 of 40 shots. I mean, what did you see in this game?
Yeah, I got the chance to watch most of it. It was pretty late here, but I did my best to watch it. I thought Canada was pretty comfortable all game. They got an early lead, and they just shut it down from that point. It got a little bit dicey at the end. The States scored to make it a 1-goal game with 12 seconds left. I was kind of not panicking, but it's like you never know what'll happen. But then they shut it down and got the win. Really, really great game. And like I said, it was great to see them sort of get their flowers with some of the attention off the men, and just the women's game is growing, and it's great to see them win because they lost a heartbreaker in Pyeongchang. You know, nice to see them get back at the States.
Yep.
But you mentioned Sarah Nurse, and like I didn't realize this as the tournament was going on, but she was on fire. Like, she broke the record for most points in an Olympic tournament. She had 18 points in, I think, 7 or 8 games.
Wow.
Which is, I don't know, mind-blowing.
Yeah, what's really funny is that Darnell Nurse from the Edmonton Oilers has been quoted many times for saying that he is the least athletic child in that family.
Yeah. I mean, who they have the Kia Nurse is related to them as well. That's just, I think their parents. I think Sarah. I don't think they're all siblings. I think there's a cousin in there somewhere. I'm not sure.
True.
But they're like their parents. I think were also like Olympic athletes or something. That family's DNA is golden.
Very decorated family.
Yeah, and you talked about Marie-Philippe Poulin. Like, do you think she's, after this, cemented herself as, we're in the conversation for the greatest women's player of all time?
Yes. I mean, in my eyes, it's between her and Hayley Wickenheiser. I mean, Poulin has scored, in every gold medal game that she's played? Yeah. She's got 3 golds and a silver in her career. Like, I don't know. What do you think? Those are some pretty good stats for me.
And you hit on it. They call her Captain Clutch for a reason. Like, she scores, and she scores game winners, too. Yep. It's not just like a goal and like a 5-0 win. Like, she scores game-winning goals. And I think you can't quantify clutch, but it matters in conversations like this.
For sure.
I think she has a great case to be made. Sometimes it's hard, I notice, when you're talking about players who you're watching currently, because you glorify the players that came before them. But I think in a few years, if this is Poulin's last Olympics and we look back, she's going to be right up there with Hayley Wickenheiser. If not past, just because of like that, every, like the clutch factor, 3 golds. I mean, it's pretty damn impressive.
Yeah, I know. I agree. Overall, really great to see that gold medal win. They represented Canada very well, and we're all very proud.
Yeah. So let's move on now. I think we're on to the pretenders or contenders section. We teased it a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
This is the part of the episode that I was really looking forward to most, because so what we're going to talk about here is I'm going to give you a team, you're going to give me a team, and we're going to each talk about whether we think they're a pretender or a contender. And obviously we're not going to give names like Tampa or Florida. We're going to give guys on the cusp.
Sure.
So here's the team I have for you. You spoke about them a little bit for a while. So I'm excited to see your take on it. What do you think about the Minnesota Wild?
I think they're dangerous.
Wow. Okay. Elaborate.
I think they're my dark horse for this playoffs, especially if they make a move. And this is their year. Like, they have to go for it. They have a really solid team already. Mm-hmm. And, like, Cap Friendly's numbers do wonders for me because it makes my life easy. But by the time the deadline comes around, they'll have the space to add a player who makes, like, a $9 million AAV. Like, they can add 2 guys who make, like, 4 to 5, or, like, a real good player, like a Claude Giroux makes 8, who I said a couple episodes ago. I think, if they make one move to either shore up their scoring depth, I don't know if they need help on defense. I don't watch them enough, but just looking at, like, their lineup on paper, I think they could use another depth forward. Mm-hmm. Again, I mentioned Claude Giroux. They have all their draft picks, like every round draft picks for the next 3 years.
Wow.
Like, you can use them.
They can go get some damage.
Yeah, you can use that. And I alluded to it earlier. This is their year to go for it.
So they have to go for it this year.
I think they have to. And there's, like I said, they have a good team, but there's, like, big financial implications for the next 2 years, 3 years actually, where they need to. So if you guys remember, they bought out Zach Parise and Ryan Suter's huge contracts. Like, these were pre-lockout contracts. The back diving, like, there are big ramifications for buyouts and, like, cap recapture if they retire, and the extent of that is massive. So for the next 3 years, they're gonna have to pay a total of $12 to $14 million per year for guys who don't even play on their team.
Wow. So let me ask you a question, because I genuinely don't know this, and I'm sure a lot of people don't either. You mentioned that they have a bunch of draft picks. Like, is it possible for them to, like, trade those contracts to a team for a bunch of draft picks so they pay those penalties, or no?
I don't think you're allowed to do that, because I think because they bought the contract, so they have to sort of take the hit.
Okay.
But, I mean, hey, if we're talking about ways to be more flexible with the cap, like we talked about earlier, maybe you do that. Maybe there's an incentive for some teams in some circumstances to get some assets for money like that. Who knows? That's a good question. Mm-hmm. And so if there's ever a reason to go for it, if you're going to be literally cap strapped, like, imagine paying Connor McDavid but not having him, like, $12 to $14 million a year. Like, you're kind of handicapped at that point. So you kind of have to go for it this year. If you're going to be bad the next few years, at least you went for it this year. Maybe something good comes out of it. So that's my rant on Minnesota. I have high hopes for them in the playoffs. But now the team that I'm going to ask you, and they just got Tyler Toffoli. Oof. Tell me about Calgary.
Calgary, one of my favorite teams in the league. I just talked about why I love that trade so much. So I don't think it's unexpected to hear me say that. I think now that they are definitely a contending team. Mm-hmm. Like, when you look at the advanced stats on this team, it just speaks to the fact that these guys are going to go on a playoff run this year. And there's from 3 perspectives: offensive, defensive, 4, goaltending and coaching. I'm going to talk about each of these in turn. From an offensive perspective, on 5 versus 5 expected goals percentage, they're first in the league at 57%, right? They don't require special teams to score goals. 5-on-5 expected goals per 60 is 4th in the league. And then here's something that's really awesome. Their special teams goal force percentage is 4th in the league at 62. So they can score 5-on-5. They can also score on the power play by adding Tyler Toffoli. This team is offensively prolific. Yeah. Right? When we look at a defensive side, their 5-on-5 expected goals against per 60 minutes is 5th in the league. Like, this team is good defensively. Oh, yeah. Right? Offensively and defensively, they're fantastic. I saw this really good chart by Jay Fresh on Twitter, and he put the offensive expected goals for per 60 minutes on the y-axis and the goals against on the x-axis, right? So if you can imagine, you'd want to be in that upper right-hand quadrant where you don't give up a bunch of goals and you score a bunch of goals. Mm-hmm. And here's something that's really actually fits perfectly in our episode. There's only 2 teams that are in that upper right quadrant. Who do you think they are?
Calgary
And
Minnesota.
Literally. Calgary, Minnesota. It actually fits so well. And for anyone listening, I promise we didn't plan that. That just actually
I didn't know
out.
this chart existed.
Yeah, that works out really well. So when you think about it, the fact that they can both score and defend really means there's only one potential hole on this team, and that would be goaltending. But their goaltending's fantastic.
Yeah.
Right? Markstrom has a 927 save percentage, which is 4th best in the league this year.
Holy, I didn't realize it was that high.
Like, this team is stacked. And one thing that is very underappreciated on this team is that they brought in Daryl Sutter. And from a statistical perspective,
Oh my gosh.
his teams have always been top notch. Let me break these stats down for you really quickly. Their goals for percentage is always above 52%. Their Corsi for is always above 55%. It's usually at 57, except for 1 year. And for perspective, for people who don't understand advanced stats like myself, being above that 55th percentile puts you in an elite status of teams.
Okay.
He's done that literally every year. Like, I don't know. What do you think about Daryl Sutter as a coach?
I'm going to be completely honest. When they hired him, I was like, oh my gosh, like why? Like he was really good in the early 2010s. I thought he was maybe over the hill. And that was maybe my coldest take ever because he's proven that he can still do it. And when it comes playoff time, his teams just ramp up to another level. Like I'd be scared to play this team now.
Yeah. Did he win all of those cups with LA?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Like, I mean, when you look at it overall, Calgary is offensively, defensively, in the net and coaching fantastic. And the kicker is that they play in the worst division in hockey, right? Like, this team, I mean, now that Jack Eichel comes back for Vegas, like, it's going to be a race between 1 and 2. But, like, I would put my house on the fact that they finish 1 and 2 in no actual order, right? I mean, they're my dark horses to win it all. It just makes a lot of sense for me.
Yeah, I can see them doing a lot of damage. We got 2 low-key dark horses in the West for our guys here. So I think it's going to be an interesting playoffs in the West. Like, everyone talks about the East being like the best teams, and while that may be true, it's going to be some really good battles going on in the West.
I'm really excited. I love watching playoff hockey. Just when school finishes, you sit in the backyard.
Oh my gosh,
it's getting warmer out there. I'm excited to see what happens this year.
Me too. Okay, so do we have time to talk about some Calder races?
Sure, let's do it. I mean, start us off.
So I'm gonna get so much hate because I'm gonna talk about Michael Bunting and how he is a rookie. I don't care if he's 25; he's a rookie. Mm-hmm. He's 4th among rookies in points, 1st in goals. It's also kind of nice to see a Leaf in the conversation again. I know Matthews won it, but like before Matthews, I don't think any of our rookies even came close. And while we're talking about him, he has been a great, replacement for Zach Hyman. I miss Zach Hyman. I wish he was still here. But if we're talking value for money, Michael Bunting at $950K versus Zach Hyman at $5.5 million. I love Zach Hyman, but give me Michael Bunting.
How old is Michael Bunting?
25, I think.
This kind of seems a little bit reminiscent of Ben Simmons winning the Rookie of the Year at age 50 in the NBA.
Yeah, I mean, hey, they put the rookie rules in there. They got to eat it when a guy who's 25 decides to pop off on his hometown team. I don't know. I don't think he's gonna win it. I think there's some better rookies. I just want to give Bunting some love. Who do you have as your guy?
I think the Calder comes somewhere from Detroit. I don't know who exactly it will be, but I mean, so at first there was a lot of talk about Trevor Zegras. Mm-hmm. I mean, the NHL hyped up Trevor Zegras so much. I mean, he scored those Michigan goals. Don't get me wrong. He's without a doubt the most skilled rookie in the league this year.
That's fair.
Right, but I don't think he wins the Rookie of the Year. I mean, he's fallen off a little bit recently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, he's got 33 points this year in 44 games, which is still
not bad.
Really great. And that team, Anaheim, was good for a bit. Now they're not great anymore.
Yeah.
I think it's either Lucas Raymond or Moritz Seider, and in my mind, I think Moritz Seider takes the cake.
Yeah.
Like what defensemen are even in Detroit other than Moritz Seider? I know Nick Leddy.
Like Mark Stahl, I think. Like, no, he's the guy there.
He's playing a lot of minutes. He's got 34 points, like 5 goals, 29 assists in 50 games. I mean, like here's what's pretty cool. I know I alluded to this, like the plus minus is a flawed stat, and with like I said with Drew Doughty, but I mean he's +1. Like
on that team.
that team's terrible.
Yeah.
Right. They don't win many games. He plays first line power play. He scores. He gets assists. He blocks a bunch of shots. He's definitely their best defender. I would be surprised if Moritz Seider does not win the Calder.
Yeah, I think when I said it's going to be someone other than Michael Bunting, like Seider was the first guy that came into my head, so I'm glad you talked about him. And I think this is just another example of like Stevie Y being one of the best GMs out there. When he made that pick a few years ago, everyone was like, "Why the heck?" Like he was ranked in like maybe the low first round, high second round. People were like, This was like almost like Porzingis-esque, sort of like taking a guy out of nowhere really high, and he ends up being good. I mean, granted, Porzingis has not been great recently, but like it just reminded me of that. And Stevie Y is just, he's a wizard. So I mean, kudos to them. I'm not a big fan of Detroit because they beat the Leafs, but it's good to see them on the come up.
Yeah, do you know who went in that 2019 NHL draft above him?
I have no idea.
I think it was it was a Jack Hughes draft. It was Jack Hughes, Capo, Kirby. I'm looking it up now. I see Alex Turcotte and then Mort Seider at number 6.
So in a redraft, he goes 1.
One without a doubt. You would take him over Jack Hughes, would you not?
Probably, because I mean Jack Hughes is good. He's kind of like a Zegras, like a really skilled finesse player. But if you're talking about a fringe, first, second line center, who's like, I don't know, still has time to prove himself. But yeah, give me a right hand defenseman who's like 6'3" and a beast all day.
So one thing, and I know we didn't prep too much for this, but I know you have him on your fantasy team. I want to get your thoughts on if Matthew Boldy was brought up at the beginning of the year. I know it's a little bit late now. Like, do you think he would have had a shot to win Rookie of the Year?
I think maybe, like, based on his performance now. I mean, who knows if he would be able to sustain it. Like, a lot of guys come out of the gate and they're, like, hot. He's in a good situation in Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, he has been on fire. Got a hat trick this week, I think. I mean, he might be sort of, he won't get nominated because he's not around for long enough, but he might get recognized, sort of get more credit as being one of the better rookies of the year by the end of it.
Yeah, he's over a point per game right now in his early NHL career, and like he doesn't even play on a great line. It's like Frederick Gaudreau and Kevin Fiala. Like he's not playing with Kaprizov, Hartman, Zuccarello. He's leading that second line, and I mean, I don't know. I kind of like Matthew Boldy. I think if he was brought up at the beginning of the year, I think he would have made a case. Yeah,
I think so too. He's a really good player. They also have, oh my gosh, I can't remember his name now. The Austrian kid, Russo. I don't think his name is Russo. Anyway, the Wild fans in the comments will let me know. But they have him. They have Boldy and this guy. I can't remember. I had name on the tip of my tongue. I just literally forgot it as I started speaking. But they have some good prospects and they're good now. I'm not gonna go on more about my crush on Minnesota, but they look like they're pretty well. They got some good young kids coming up.
I mean, their bright future also speaks to the fact whether like you said, like they should go for it now, even if they give away a bunch of picks. They have a great future. I mean, who knows what could happen?
I'm for it.
Yep.
Okay, I think that's a wrap on our Calder talk. What's next? Are we opening into trivia now?
Yeah, let's start with trivia before we do fantasy.
Okay.
This week's I'm kind of excited for because there's a lot of so this week's in trivia we're not talking about Stanley Cup champions. I'm not giving you stats about players. It's more so like financial stats from the NHL as a whole.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of interesting answers here. Once again, for anybody playing along, tweet us at UFR podcast _ follow us on TikTok at Upon Further Review. Even send us an email, which all the links are in our socials, and let us know if you beat Steph. And we'll see how you do. You've honestly been on a roll. Every week you doubt yourself, and every week you come through. I expect you to come through again.
I'm not a financial wizard, as we learned last week when I thought the Great Depression was in the early 2000s. So let's see what I got.
Okay, so the first question I'm going to ask you is about average attendance. Actually, the first few questions I'm going to ask you. Who do you think this year, based on total number of tickets sold, has the lowest average attendance in the NHL?
I mean, off the top of my head, I'd have to go with the team who's going to be playing in a 3,000 capacity arena next year. So like I'll say the Coyotes.
Isn't it kind of funny? I know we're going off on a tangent that their nosebleed seats are going to be like platinum seats in the ACC.
If we ever go to Scottsdale, we're going to watch a game there.
Oh my God, the GM even talked. The GM or the president today I saw on Twitter had a press conference and he tried to say that they're playing in the state of the art Arizona State University arena.
Yeah, if you're from Toronto, just go to Pine Point. It's the same thing.
Like they're playing on park benches, are they not?
Yeah, it's my God. I'm sure it'll look nice, but it's like it's a joke. Whatever. We don't have to talk about it.
So, Arizona is not the correct answer. It's a Canadian team. I think that should give you the answer.
Okay. I mean, of the Canadian teams, there's only one. I would just say Ottawa if I'm getting second chances.
Yeah, because isn't there like home arena somewhere 45 minutes away from downtown?
It's such a mess. It's such a yeah. It is. It's like if we had to drive to like Hamilton or something.
Yeah, for real. So their average attendance is only about 6,800 people. It's 35% capacity. Something like it blew my mind. I thought Arizona was going to be first by a country mile, but actually next there's another team between Arizona and Ottawa. Could you take a guess who it is?
Oh my gosh, are they Canadian or no?
No, it's been a franchise who's been in shambles for a very long time. I might give it away. They're pretty close to the 49th parallel. Practically Canadian, very far north.
Oh wow. Is it Detroit?
Close as Buffalo.
Oh my gosh, how could I not think of that team? Okay.
45% capacity, 8,600 people. Arizona's next. Actually, like when you think of it, they sell out almost 70% of their tickets. So I mean, it's not like nobody goes to watch the game. There's just no market for it in that.
Yeah.
Okay, so next, we're gonna flip the switch here. The highest average attendance based on tickets sold. Give me who you think is in first, and then we'll keep going down the list.
Okay, is it an American team?
It is.
Okay. So of the American teams, it has to be a team that's a big market and good.
Yep.
So, I mean, New York comes to mind. I'm thinking.
Okay.
I don't think Boston has a big stadium, or else I'd say them.
It's a team you wouldn't expect.
Really?
Yeah. But your thought process was right. They're really good.
They're really good. Who are these American teams that are really good? You got Pittsburgh. I don't know how big their stadium is. I'm trying to think of like stadiums that are like big. And I know the United Center is big where Chicago plays, but they suck. No one wants to go there.
I'll give you a hint. You don't gotta wear pants to show up at this game.
Oh my god, really?
Yeah, long sleeve pants. Obviously, no one clown me in the comments for that.
Yeah, no, I know. You can wear
shorts.
shorts, so it's got to be somewhere warm.
Yeah.
Is it?
You don't have to wear pants. Keep going.
Is it? My God, is it like? I'm trying to think somewhere warm who's good. The only two teams that come to mind is someone like that's warm and good is one of the Florida teams.
Mm-hmm.
I think historically Tampa's done better than Florida, so I'm gonna say Tampa.
Tampa's the correct answer. It's
really?
Crazy. They sell out on average 100% of their tickets. Like they're literally sold out every game. 19,000 people on average. In second, I'll just give them to you. So Washington comes in second.
Wow.
In third are your boys, Minnesota. That makes no sense to me.
State of hockey, baby.
97% tickets sold. Almost 19,000 people go watch this game.
Yeah, wow.
Then you have Vegas and Dallas. So you said New York. I mean, for me,
where are they?
New York and the Leafs come to mind as like the guys I would have guessed first.
Sure, yeah.
Taken, the Leafs are 20th in the NHL, and New York is 17th in the NHL.
What?
It makes no sense. I wonder if it has something to do with the size of the stadium. The Leafs only get 14,600 people a game on average.
Is that like not a COVID thing?
That's actually a really good point. I mean, you've been to Leaf games. It looks like more than 80% of people come to these games.
Well, yeah, I went to watch a game actually, funnily enough, against the Rangers. We were both at that game actually.
Yep.
It was kind of empty, and I think there was full capacity at the time. I don't know if it's like people in Toronto, maybe money's tight with the pandemic and tickets are expensive, or maybe people just didn't want to go into a crowded area, which I totally understand. But that's kind of surprising. 14,000. I hope that changes.
They got lucky they didn't go to that game. We witnessed a robbery. Igor Shesterkin stole the show.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, moving on. Most valuable franchises according to like market value.
Oh, so like Forbes list or something like that?
Yeah, give me.
I think.
Give me the top 5.
In any order?
No, in the order. You
in
can
the order?
Get it. Yeah,
okay. Just because they're American, I'm gonna say New York first.
Correct.
Montreal second. Is it?
Incorrect.
Incorrect.
They're on this list.
Are the Leafs second?
Leafs are second.
Oh, Montreal third then?
Yep.
Montreal's third then.
You give me 4 and 5 before I give you the answer.
Okay. I'm just trying to think. Really good teams in big markets. Is Boston there?
Boston's there.
Are they fourth?
They are not fourth.
Damn it. Okay, so they're fifth. And I'm trying to think who could be there. Another American team with a lot of history. Oh, man. I would want to see some...
5 seconds left on the clock.
The first name that comes to mind is Philly, but I feel like that's wrong, but I'm going to say Philly.
Not correct. Original 6 team, Chicago.
Oh, shoot.
Right, so New York, Toronto, Montreal, Chicago, Boston. So now let's flip the switch. Least valuable franchises in the NHL. So to put it in perspective, New York has a market value of $1.6 billion.
Wow.
The least valuable franchise has a market value of $285 million.
Oh, my gosh. They had to buy Seattle for $750 million.
Yep. Who do you think
so I know they're not there. I'm going to say Arizona.
Arizona's one.
Okay. Am I giving you the bottom 5 now?
Give me the bottom 4.
Bottom 4. Okay, so Arizona's got to be there. I would also say, honestly, I feel like the Jets are there.
The Jets were actually 5. That's a good guess. But they
5th from the bottom?
5th from the bottom.
Oh, okay.
These teams are more in line with like
They're
smaller market teams.
Okay.
I mean, it's obviously least valuable.
Yeah. Is Ottawa there?
Ottawa's not there.
No. Wow.
Sunshine State.
Florida?
Florida's
The
number 2.
Panthers. Wow. Okay. I think because they're good on the ice, it kind of blinded me, but that kind of makes sense actually. I'm just trying to think of like teams in like kind of low key areas. There are a few of them. I'm just having a brain fart. No, not Carolina. Is Carolina there?
No, Carolina's not there.
Carolina's too good to be there.
Team in Ohio at number 3.
Oh my God. Ohio. I can only think of Cleveland and Cincinnati, but they don't have teams.
No, they don't.
Who the heck plays in Ohio?
Their best players goes by the name of Rick Nash.
Oh my God, Columbus.
Columbus is number 3, and then number 4 is Buffalo.
Buffalo.
These are names that we would have thought. Okay, so the last one, the second last one I'm going to give you is that. Who do you think? Give me the teams that have won the most cups in franchise history. Just give me the top 3.
Okay, Montreal.
Yep.
Toronto.
Yep.
Somehow. And who else is there? It's got to
while.
be. I feel like it's another original 6 team. Is it the Rangers?
Close. It was a dynasty team that head-to-head at Pittsburgh for a very long time.
Oh, Detroit?
Detroit at number 4. At number 3, nice. Okay, here's the last one. There are 11 teams to never win a cup. How many of them can you get?
Okay, let's try this. Arizona.
Yep.
Does Winnipeg count? Because they were like Winnipeg / Arizona, but also / the Thrashers.
Winnipeg counts.
Okay.
It's 2.
San Jose.
San Jose's number. Yep.
Anaheim won. LA won. Florida hasn't won.
Florida's on that list.
I'm at 4. Columbus.
Columbus, yes. 5. Not bad. Your boys, you want them to win a cup this year?
Oh, Minnesota's there. Wow.
Yep.
Okay. There's got to be another Canadian team. Ottawa hasn't won a cup.
Yep, nice. So actually, now that I'm looking at this, I lied. There's 12, and the reason I know that is because there was a recent expansion team, so that gives away 2.
Do they both? Okay, yeah. Okay, that's fine. I wouldn't even thought of them just because like they're so recent. But okay, Vegas and the Kraken.
Mm-hmm.
They have 2 more now.
You're so close. One of them's Canadian.
Another Canadian team?
Yep.
Who did I not name? I'm trying to think. Oh, does Vancouver not have a cup? Oh, wow, Vancouver doesn't have a cup.
Came within a game.
Yeah, when they don't, when they riot. So.
Yep. Rest in peace.
And then one more.
Sorry, two more.
Shoot. I'm trying to think. Who's in the Leafs division that might not have a cup?
They are in the Leafs division. One of them.
Buffalo?
Buffalo. Nice. One more. Western team.
Western team.
They're unexpectedly good this year. No one thought they'd be good. Their goalie is the best goalie in the league this year. Probably will win the Vezina.
I'm thinking Shesterkin, but that can't be.
Bright yellow jerseys.
Oh my gosh, Nashville.
You
gave me a lot of hints there, but I got there in the end.
Nice. I mean, so not bad. That ends off our trivia. Yeah, it was so weird to think that the one that blew my mind the most is like highest average attendance. I would have never guessed Tampa. I would have honestly guessed New York, Toronto. Really weird.
I guess that kind of goes to show that they're doing something right when they go down to these tropical places.
Yep.
Good for Tampa.
Yep.
Okay. And now we'll wrap. We got a little bit of time left to do some fantasy. We're going to change it up this week just for our own sake. We're not going to do bangers points. What we're going to do is we're going to name a player who's relatively unowned, like less than 50, 60%, who we think can go on a bit of a heater over the next week or two, just so it's more relevant for everyone's leagues. I'm going to go first.
Let's hear it.
I have a guy on St. Louis, Barbashev.
Wow.
Barbashev. He's only 43% owned. He's having a really good year. He's got 15 goals, 19 assists. I'm pretty sure he's a guy who can play center and both wings on Yahoo Fantasy, at least Yahoo. So very flexible in that regard. And then over his next 5 games, he plays Montreal, Philly, Buffalo, Chicago, and then a good team. I don't remember who it is, but like 4 of his next 5 games are against some pretty bad teams. So why not pick him up and hopefully they can do some damage for you.
I like that pick. So on my end, I have a guy that I've been raving about all episode. Who do you think it is?
Tyler Toffoli.
Tyler Toffoli is the answer. Okay, kind of weird Guess what he's owned in fantasy after he's played 2 games for Calgary and, by the way, scored in his first game.
Like what he's currently at?
Yeah.
I don't know. He's good. I'd have to say, like, is he like in this, like maybe 65% or something?
Yeah, he's 60% owned. I think honestly,
Wow.
I think he's a must-add in every fantasy league that isn't 4 players long. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, when you have depth to your fantasy leagues, this guy definitely slots in at least in a lower tier winger on like a 7th or 8th place team.
Yeah.
I mean, I expect him to play second line with Mangiapane. He's going to be on the first power play line. I already explained how cracked this guy is. Like, he won't pair against the first lines because he plays on the second.
Yeah,
so,
that's
I mean,
true.
that makes for a lot of plus minuses. Surprisingly, lots of chemistry on that team. He's played with a lot of guys on that team. Like, we even know that Milan Lucic's picked him up. He said,
Yeah.
Toffoli said he made him dinner at his house. I mean,
That's pretty cool.
Toffoli in an interview said that he walked into that room and you have the guy. So, I mean, I expect him to really go off on this
Yeah.
team. Yeah, that's
I
my
agree.
pick.
That's a really good suggestion. I think that kind of takes us to the end of this episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else that you want to add to finish it off?
I can't think of anything. You?
Dominic Hasek is better than Patrick Waugh.
Yeah.
Go
100%.
Canada, go Canada, go.
Yeah, go Canada, go. Tough loss for the men's, but shout out to the women.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Thanks everyone for listening. We'll see you next week.
Yeah, see you next week.